that some of the things that are in it we'll probably discuss. Others, forget it. We're going to go off onto some tangents, partly inspired by some of the stuff you've heard here today. So, as Steve said, I've been playing around with research and insights work into how people consume all forms of media for more years than I care to remember, but it's always been fun. And digital video has obviously become an increasing part of that as the landscape has evolved. What I am tied up with at the moment is this Media Behavior Institute. We have a product called USA Touchpoints, and I want to use that to set a scene. We published some data just recently. There's been some talk here, and there's generally talk about just how much time do people spend using different platforms for video. And one of the things we've been able to do is look at trend data year on year by tracking what people do. They report to us what they do in half-hour by half-hour increments over a 10-day period. All media, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, whoever they're with, and however they're feeling. John Wolfe was talking a little while ago about the importance of context. This is it, looking at video in context. What's kind of interesting is that this year we found that 34% of 18 to 64-year-old Americans will look at some form of digital video on one device or another at least once in the average week. Now, that figure is up 25% year on year, which talks about a rate of growth. But it puts into context just how many people are actually doing it. Now, that doesn't compare to TV, of course, live TV. Live TV is still the Leviathan, and any conversation which doesn't acknowledge that is probably somewhat bordering on the delusional. You're looking at 95% of 18 to 64-year-olds doing it on at least a weekly basis. That's down marginally, 1.5 points from a year ago. But we live and we breathe video. 99.5% of 18 to 64-year-olds use video of one sort or another in the week. That's not news. Whether it's TV or computer or tablet and so on. On an average day, 11% of us watch some form of digital video. That's up from 7% a year ago. Again, considerable growth. So, the use is clearly there. It's clearly progressing. And we talk a lot about tablet. We talk a lot about mobile. Again, the rates of growth there are huge. The largest rate of growth in any of these areas was tablet. We saw a growth rate year on year of 133% on our data based on tablet use and video on tablet. But it's still only 6% reach on a weekly basis of 18 to 64-year-olds. And the problem with mobile and with tablet is that they're fantastic devices. They're mobile phones, they're ubiquitous. Smartphones take an increasingly larger chunk of that. Tablets are growing rapidly within the population. But they represent everything that's challenging about cross-platform media consumption and planning and buying and marketing in the cross-platform environment, because they are cross-platform in microcosm, each and every one of them. I can pick up a tablet and do anything with it. I can do email, I can work, I can play games, I can read, I can watch a video. But watching a video is only a small part of that. The same is true of mobile phones, perhaps an even smaller part. So, the landscape is there. It's complex. That's the issue. And I think any conversation, as I said before, that doesn't take into account the broader world of video, and that was really made clear, I thought, in the last panel, it's verging on the irrelevant. I mean, there are things we can talk about with regard to digital video, sure, but talk about the NewFronts without talk about the Upfronts, not so relevant, which is why we will inevitably talk quite at length about the two and how they dovetail together. One more thing I want to say. My traditional Mary Meeker smackdown moment. I agree, yeah. It's all jolly interesting that TV accounts for a certain amount of our time, a large chunk of our time, and a huge amount of marketing dollars. Mobile, tablet, online video, etc. Also, increasing amounts of time, significantly smaller proportions of budget, and when you match the two, the numbers don't line up. Why should they? Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, the amount of money going to mobile shouldn't reflect the amount of time. I'm saying don't even think in those terms. If you can get more money going to digital video than is suggested by the amount of time spent, then do it. To compare one platform like for like as if they were apples for apples, without accepting that television delivers a different user experience, a different set of opportunities to marketers than does online video by any other device, is to ignore the fact and to assume that you can put equal value on all of those things and that the legacy systems around the planning and buying is the same, again, is to ignore a whole bunch of facts. So I don't buy that at all. And I think if online video, digital video can leverage the context in which it's consumed to get a higher premium for what it does, it's going to outstrip those figures. On the other hand, it's got to overcome an awful lot of legacy behaviors within the way we do things now. All right, let's get into this conversation properly, having probably witted for a little too long. I'm going to ask the panel to say a little bit about who they are. I want you to say who you are, what you do, and where you're from. And I'd like you to say in Twitter length bytes, what do you think is the biggest problem? 140 characters, biggest challenge, not problem, biggest challenge facing the world of online video. Those of you who are tweeting, get ready.
My name is Brad Bernard. I'm the VP at Harmelin Media, which is an advertising agency out of Philadelphia. I started the digital division there, which started as a person of one about 6 years ago. Maybe we have about 40 people now, and experiencing exponential growth. It seems like every week. My previous experience, I hit all the big agencies, mostly down in the Dallas area, some up in Chicago. A lot of them Omnicom shops. I was at OMD. I was at DDB. I was at Tracy Locke. For a brief period, I was up at Leo Burnett. Also hit client side with Sprint. And like probably 90% of the people in here, sometime in the late 90s, did a startup. In terms of the biggest challenge for online video, I'll preface it before my tweet. We talk about a lot of the education that the rest of the marketplace needs to understand digital video and all the metrics and everything that it can do, and educating our traditional counterparts and educating clients. I actually think that some of the biggest obstacles that we have are ourselves. I think the digital experts need a little more education on the traditional means and the traditional measurements. I think we're too quickly to discount the effort and work that goes into traditional planning.
Oh, I like that.
Great. Hi, Francois Lee from MediaVest. I'm Senior Vice President, Group Client Director, and currently primarily manage Microsoft Xbox Total Investment. My background is in traditional television over the years, but in the last 6 years or so, as we migrate to a video-neutral platform in the way we buy, I've been wearing the Total Investment hat and worked on other clients such as Heineken, TD Ameritrade, to say the least. I think there have been several topics discussed this morning on online video, and it's very hard to generalize, right? But I think in the context of NewFront and Upfront, I would say content is a big area we look for as far as pushing volume into online video. I think there are a variety of reasons why I use TV, but a big one is the buzz factor, is the programming, is the halo effect it generates. And we're starting to see some original content online, but as far as that long-form, professionally created video, but we're still not there yet. I think there's a lot of room for growth there, and if we really want to talk about how can you move money in a NewFront in an upfront way, then we got to talk about the content, the way you structure it, the way you roll it out, what's the vision, and then go from there, and we can cover other topics like measurability, metrics, but I think content is a big one. And that's probably more than 140 characters. Cool. I don't tweet a lot. I should.
Thank you, Adam.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Potashnick. I'm a senior partner, group account director at Mediacom. I head up our Dell business in the US. I will keep mine much shorter. I really think it's being able to have that central point of contact that's planning all video. I think across all clients, we're not having that central point of contact that's planning video holistically across all platforms. So until we start looking at video just holistically and not looking at it as TV versus online versus tablet and digital, smartphone, we're going to have different ways of different philosophies, different metrics, different ways of going about planning it. So it's certainly all about getting that central point of contact on each account that can plan video holistically across platform.
Thank you.
Hello, Guy Rancourt. I work at Hill Holliday up in Boston. I'm probably the one outlier in this entire room in that I'm a traditional TV guy. I'm not in the digital space, although we're starting to kind of blur those lines, which is why I'm here. We're trying to educate our clients and people within the agency to start thinking, to your point, Adam, more holistically and look at it as a video budget, not necessarily a TV budget. I work on Liberty Mutual, Dunkin' Donuts. I actually have a long list of accounts. I'm not going to go through them. I think probably one of the biggest challenges, in addition to trying to get the money pooled as one kind of video budget, is it's acceptance and understanding. A lot of times at the client level, because they are so resistant to to thinking new ways and doing different things, and they're very set in the ways that they've always done things. So our challenge is to keep on pushing them and educating them to try to get them to see that when you do online video campaigns, they really work. You don't have to keep on dumping all the money into TV. And I'm a TV guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna talk against it, but there's more out there, and it's just a matter of trying to get them to see that you can take a little bit more than this much money and put it into online video, and it's gonna work really hard for you.
Hi, I'm Chris Senio with MEC in New York, senior partner, senior director on the digital side of the business. I've been in digital agency, media planning, and buying my whole career. Currently focus a lot of my time on the Michelin and Kaplan accounts that we have. And I think the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges facing us, is getting our clients to be as fluid and nimble with their budgets, and our creative partners as fluid and nimble with their video production, so that we can execute seamlessly across these different screens.
A perennial challenge in so many parts of the business. Okay, thanks, guys. I think, as you see, we've actually got some serious thinking and some serious influence on some major accounts represented on the panel. Adam, I want to come back to something you said and that others have alluded to, which is this issue of basically thinking about it just as video. I mean, it's certainly my view that 5 years' time we're going to look back and say, well, how retro. We talked about digital video. It's kind of like fax machines and telexes now. With that, and thinking about the NewFronts and the Upfronts, just start with you, Adam. I mean, it's obviously good that the NewFronts set the stage where the digital offering can be put out there aggressively, cohesively, and this year, I mean, I think it's 18 separate events crammed into a very short period of time. It's pretty damn intense. It's just kind of like Trunked Up Cannes Movie Festival or something, and it's a lot of buzz and excitement around it, and hopefully it's going to deliver kind of results. But to your point about pulling it all together, do we really need a separate event, or should we be pushing harder to integrate the two?
I think the answer to that lies with the media companies themselves. So from their point of view, they have different offerings and they have different services that they're trying to promote to the marketplace. So if we look at a publication or a great media partner like the Wall Street Journal, they're entering into the NewsFronts this year, I believe, for the first time. Yep. This gives them now a platform to talk about their ways of going to market and developing out content and really diversifying their portfolio overall. For others, they're backing out of the NewsFronts. They were in it last year, and they've now changed their strategy on how they're going to communicate to the marketplace. I think those media partners and those media owners that actually house a multitude of different ways to connect through video, I think they should be speaking holistically and through one announcement or one major meeting or kind of opportunity like an Upfront or a NewsFront. But for those media owners, this is a good coming out party. This is a good way for them to break through and communicate their proposition in a new way. So I think anything that sort of opens doors for media owners to communicate with people that might not have looked at them in that specific way before is a great opportunity for them. And I'm actually excited to attend just a few of them, especially those that are entering in the NewsFronts for the first time this year.
Sure. Yeah, Brad.
Yeah, there's actually two questions in there. The first question, implied question, is really should there be a digital NewFront? I think we can all kind of admit to ourselves it's a bit of an artificial construct to do something like this. It's an artificial construct on the TV side as well these days. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I think it's a very good thing. It's a good thing to align it with the television upfront because it forces the planning cycle. Too many times, the budget planning process was, okay, it's out of cycle, but we're going to plan the television upfront and dedicate an enormous bucket of money, and then whatever's left over we'll do everything else with. Yep. Now that we've lined the timing, we can actually have those strategic conversations about actually integrating and orchestrating these campaigns. So for that alone, it's really good. For the time being, I also think they should be separate. It kind of goes to, is video all video? Well, it depends on who you speak with. If you're speaking with the CMO, video is video. But as you get further down the chain of decision-making and specialization, not all video is the same. Digital video is complex. It has different complexities than television. You need specialists in that area, and specialists need education and opportunities to find out what's available in the marketplace. So to date, I think that, and for the foreseeable future, they should be different.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, so I would say yes to both your questions. Should they be different, and should we be working harder to get them to be a unified event? There are different realities that were alluded to about the way network upfront dollars are allocated versus digital media dollars. But I think the fact that the digital NewFronts happened before the conventional upfront sort of calls attention to this sort of separation that we all recognize is not optimal, and sort of pushes the conversation forward. The question that you just asked is being asked by our clients, so it forces the broadcast industry to sort of engage and participate with us and collaborate with us. We, as on the digital side, have more to gain by solving this than the broadcasters, where the model has been working for them to this point. So I think it's in a good place, but it can't stay there.
Sure. Go ahead.
I do think the.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we've got to keep in mind too. The upfront has a very long history and tradition to it, and a lot of things that has to be ironed out in the online digital video side has already been ironed out. We're not going to these upfronts to hear about measurement or different formats, or it's about the programming, the scheduling, and yeah, occasionally new ways of ratings like C3 to C7 or whatnot. But I think online video, you still have a lot of standardization. You still have a lot of other topics to cover that. I think it warrants to have a NewFront, and for now it should be separate.
Okay, Guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a place for it. You know, the thing about the upfronts, and I've been going to them for many years, it's not so much the presentations, because you know they're going to show you a clip of a show, but you can't really get a sense for it. They're going to show you why they're number one on one-legged albinos in Alaska, and you know, who cares about who's number one on anything? It's more about the relationship building that you do when you're there. You have all of your senior clients there. You have all of the senior salespeople. It's not the presentations that they throw. It's the dinners that I schedule with my clients. It's the lunches. It's the meetings. It's the one-on-one time where you can, you know, where they can say, hey, we have this show coming out and it's X, and then you have your senior client there and he says, you know what, we have a new product coming out and that would align perfectly. Let's talk about how we can do something, how we can build this, how we can go across all of our platforms and make something that's really compelling. So it's more about that face time that you get with all the senior people that you don't often get into a room together.
Sure. It's kind of like a MediaPost summit and all the afternoon activities where you go kayaking or fishing or whatever. But there's an interesting thing. I mean, Francois, you alluded to the history of the traditional upfronts, if we can call them that. You know, certainly for the last number of years, I've seen a lot less of it this year, certainly. But there's always been this kind of periodic debate that goes around. It's a bit like when people were always saying, this is the year of interactive TV, and they said that for a good dozen years. People going on about, well, you know, this has got to be the last time we do the upfronts. The upfronts are dying and all this kind of stuff. And, of course, they don't. But it does raise the question, if we're going to do a NewFronts for digital video, and if there are, as you say, some at least distinct differences, even though at the senior level it's video and it's about fundamentally which route do I choose to shift product and to build a brand. But should the NewFronts really adopt so much of the same approach as the upfronts when you're looking at a model which people don't regard as perfect, beyond the fact that it is great for building relationships and getting time with people? Should we be taking a somewhat different approach?
Well, it may not be exactly the same approach as the upfront. I mean, you're right in that, you know, we go into a cyclical debate every other few years or so whether the upfront is warranted. But I think if you're looking at you talk about standardization, Brad alluded to the planning cycle, something has to sync up, right? We plan for the upfront, and that's, to many marketers, it's not I mean, you're used to it, but it's not natural. It doesn't sync to your financial cycle. It doesn't sync to how you plan for your other brands. So come May, you suddenly have to approve this chunk of money for the upfront, and then everything else falls later. And there might be some give or take later, to Brad's point earlier, about cutting certain media you may not have wanted to cut. So I think there is definitely some validity to syncing up the kind of the planning and purchasing cycle of both over time. And whether the exchange would be the same, I don't know yet. I mean, right now I'm trained to not take any vacations in June. Yeah. whether the NewFront could be different, that'd be nice. So we'll have to see on that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll lean on you for this one, but I mean, obviously we know TV is supply and demand, and so having the upfront market and waiting it out or jumping right in, it's all about supply and demand. The newsfront is the supply of inventory that people are going after an issue, and then does that generate the demand that is needed to, it's not the same marketplace. I believe I attended last year a mobile upfront, and I think they were just trying to get involved, but there wasn't any supply and demand issues obviously in the mobile space at all. So what is the supply and demand? This is for anyone, for education, for the room, or for me, to tell me that there's a supply issue in digital video, that we have to have a newsfront where we have to lock up certain inventory at the same rate or at the same speed as these big CPG advertisers or just big automotive advertisers that go into the upfronts and spend tons of money.
I think that's very well said. The economic factors that drove an industry into the upfront. And say, this is, clients say, this is just all very complex. It'd be so much easier to stand in television and spend my money there. Well, if you think this is complex, you're going to like irrelevancy even more. So it's important that we see these opportunities. We understand how the industry is changing. And this is a big event where a lot of announcements come out. There's a lot of high-profile initiatives that are launched during this time frame. And for that alone, just to stay on the cutting edge, it's important. But you're absolutely right. The economic side of it is not nearly the same it is in television.
I mean, certainly at Mediacom, but I'm sure at all of your agencies, about being innovative and staying ahead of the marketplace and getting those first-to-market opportunities doesn't wait until April or May. That's a 24 hours, 7 days a week, for the entire year. So for us to think that we're going to wait for them to make an announcement, all the opportunities that are going to be revealed, most of us have already signed up for that are really relevant to our. It's not the reality. Many of these things that people are seeing, or what they think they're seeing for the first time, have already been vetted and spoken to with many of the larger advertisers that these people are doing business with anyway.
Well, often before the programs have been finally commissioned. They know that a whole bunch of dollars are in place. So it seems basically what you're saying in a nutshell, or a Twitter shell, TV, traditional TV is clearly a must-have, but digital video is still in the camp of nice to have.
I wouldn't quite put it that way.
That's the idea.
Okay. TV for many clients is still a must-have. Digital is a must-have for the few charts and discussions that we've had. Reaching that light TV viewer, that light TV viewer segment is getting bigger and bigger every month. So you have to have it. But with your Mary Meeker moment, it's true. Another stat out there. We talk about the number of people that watch television, the penetration, the number of people that watch digital video. But when you really look at time spent watching television versus video on other devices, the time spent on other devices is about 10% of the total video. And then you slice that into the ad-supported portion of the digital video, it gets even smaller. Now, it's growing quickly. But that's kind of the reason why I think we need, as an industry, as a digital industry, to step back and have the conversations, two-way conversations with our television counterparts, because they have a lot of value to add to this process. They really do. A GRP is not a goal to us. It's not a goal to the television buyers either. A GRP is a means to an end. It's a currency. A lot of research goes into what the buy is going to look like to make up those GRPs. And as we talk about GRPs, it's not this. It might be a necessary evil, but it's rather insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It's a currency that we can use. We can speak a common language. We can add together. It gets fed into models. It works reasonably well, and we shouldn't be too quick to discount it.
Sure. No, that's good. Guy, obviously, you know, there are changes being forced on how we think and how we approach the marketing challenges that our clients need us to help them solve. How are those challenges impacting the way you and your peers are approaching planning and buying?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely having an impact. We're, you know, contrary to popular belief, not all of us TV people are lording over all of our billions of dollars and trying to keep them for ourselves. We think it's smart to push it out and buy more digital video. You know, to your point, the primetime marketplace is a supply and demand thing. Every year the ratings go down in primetime. The demand stays the same or goes up, so it forces upward pressure on costs. So the CPMs go up every year. The only way that we can fight that and fight the networks is to have alternatives. And here's a perfect alternative. You know, the engagement and everything, all the other metrics. Every time we do a test with online video, we can see how well it does, and we show that to the clients. And slowly but surely, they're kind of buying into it. But it's a really slow and gradual process. But you know, in our mind, it's trying to educate the clients and make them understand that you have to be able to take calculated risks, and you have to be able to take that money and pull it off the table from the networks and move it to online video if you want to have some leverage in the marketplace now.
Sure. Francois?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we look at the video as a neutral marketplace, and when we plan and buy, we look across television, online, and mobile tablets and so forth, wherever you can reach a consumer, right? And I think you alluded to earlier about video consumption. It is, I mean, television is up, video consumption on television, but the growth, yes, is in online and mobile right now. I mean, for Xbox specifically, for us, online video is a great venue. We have content. We have 30s, 50s, 2-minute trailers, you name it, we have it. So it's a great outlet for us. And for someone like TD Ameritrade, it's a little bit more challenging because traditionally we use online as a acquisition model. We want people to sign up, so the question becomes, what is my video going to look like? And we heard earlier that you can't just repurpose your on-air to online. You got to think through the strategy, what creative you're going to use, and how you're going to use it. And that's where some of the challenges. But we do see the needle moving. Marketers are definitely warming up and looking at that, and we're migrating to that mobile conversation. So we're all making progress there.
Everyone's heard of the hype curve. So the online video is not part of the hype curve. But certainly where we were looking at in TV, the hype curve where we're certainly investigating, testing, and looking is with addressable TV and different ways to leverage set-top box data to really pinpoint or surgically target TV ads to specific households and homeowners. With online video, for many of our clients, specifically on Dell, we are always surgically targeting our video through cookie-level data and being able to even uncover new audiences and then be able to remarket those audiences later on after we have that information on the engagements that they've taken with our different messages and videos. So I think, you know, online video for us specifically is being able to surgically target and complement any TV activity that we have in market. It's not to replace, but it's definitely to complement the TV activity that we're currently putting in market and be able to extend our continuity and then be able to surgically target and then remarket specific audiences.
Cool. Now, you just mentioned measurement, and it's been talked about earlier, and no doubt it's going to crop up. And, you know, we all know that unless you can measure something consistently, sustainably, then people are not going to spend against it consistently and sustainably because they're not accountable. And my own view is that one of the great advantages that just about every form of digital video has, because of the devices that it's available through, is, as John Wolfe was saying earlier, the context in which it can be consumed at the moment of choice by the consumer. I personally think that's ultimately going to add hugely to any dialogue about reach and frequency. Reach and frequency is not going to go away, by God, no. But maybe context will become more important when you look at it on the path to purchase, as he was saying. What do you think is needed in that regard? And I know, actually, two of the agencies represented up here have some of that data already because they have USA touchpoints. But what do you think is needed down that path and in associated areas that you don't currently have available to better inform frankly, the budget allocation process when you're looking at digital video alongside traditional video and every other platform? You know, radio gets considered in the mix just as much as anything else, so does print. What's missing? What would you really like from the measurement community? You know, you've got research people in the room. Who wants it?
I mean, there's several steps before we get there. I mean, we could talk about revisited VCE, OCR, XCR, and these are great, great to build off. But I think we would love to measure it across the board and get that unduplicated reach and figure out a standard way to do that. And I think right now we all have our own data we subscribe to. We all build it, in our own proprietary way. But I think we need the fundamental building blocks there, and before we can take it a step further, so to speak, on our end.
Yeah, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with media mix modeling. It's the science behind it is fantastic, but you ask 3 different companies, 3 different people to make a model, you're going to come up with 6 different models. I think it's a good step in the right direction. But if you're talking about the measurability of digital video, you can't talk about the measurability of digital video without talking about the measurability of everything else. It's not because I'm trying to hold them to a higher standard. It's just that you need some way to deduplicate a conversion of a sale across channels, or even test the interactions of media channels with each other. That's the only way you're going to get to it. Everything else is a good step in the right direction. There are very good diagnostic metrics to optimize your campaigns while in market. There's proxy metrics that you can use to estimate the results in the ROI. But until you make the investment with a very robust regression analysis media mix model, it's empty. It's only telling half the story.
Sure. Chris?
Yeah, so the online GRP metric that we've talked about a lot it's important, but I think it is also important to underscore that it is just sort of an intermediary step, I think. It's essentially, it's a delivery metric, right? And if we reduce what we can do with digital video to simply, does it deliver and can we agree that it delivered X amount, is to sort of overlook what more we can do with digital video, all the interactivity that's possible and the other potential for measurement of other activities beyond pure delivery that I think really is what sets it apart from sort of conventional broadcast video advertising.
Okay, now I know we're running up towards the end. We're going to keep talking for a little bit longer, but any questions out there I would invite henceforth. We'll just keep talking, but if you see a hand go up, we'll take the question. What I suspect will be my final question, whether or not anybody asks a question. The title of this session is, what do planners and buyers want out of the NewFronts? We talked at length about the NewFronts. In short, what do you guys hope for out of the NewFronts specifically as distinct from the Upfronts? And what do you hope they achieve for the industry as well? Says he, throwing his phone on the floor. Adam.
Keep it short. I want to be inspired, and I want to be, inspired, and I just want to be, I want to see something that potentially I haven't heard about in my own dealings, in our agency's dealings with media owners on a daily basis, or sort of, a lot of the things that that we've been hearing about for the last few years, just sort of polished and brought to market again this year. So I just really want to be inspired by the new owners that are coming to market with the NewFronts, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to offer.
Guy?
I think we saw a lot of really interesting things last year in the NewFronts. A lot of original content that we were really excited about. I think what we felt as the year went on after the NewFronts was that there wasn't a lot of follow-up. There wasn't a lot of engagement from a lot of the vendors to say, hey, we see you got X brand, and we think that would be a perfect fit for this. So I think that was one of our takeaways from last year, was that we didn't even when we reached out, we would have preliminary conversations, but we didn't really feel like we got to engage anybody in a deep and meaningful way.
As the IAB are involved in the logistics now, maybe a good thing for them to do, he said, putting it out there for them, would be, say, every 3 months to convene small or host small meetings on discussion forums on things that come out of the NewFronts. Chris?
Yeah, I'd say, I would want it to make our jobs easier, right? We all attend enough meetings and presentations, so this shouldn't just be something that's added on. That we have to find a way for it to become actionable for all of us and what we do in planning video in the future.
Francois?
Yep. Well, I say lay it out. Lay it all out. Your strategy, your scheduling, when is it rolling out? What's your plan for the year? This is not just a point in time. This is...
It's not actually telling me that I should be wrapping up. It's my wife. Probably saying happy anniversary, darling. Why aren't I at that luxury hotel with you?
Congratulations.
Congrats.
There we go. Sorry, Francois. I'll get my wife to apologise publicly.
Well, I should really wrap it up now, then.
Yeah, no, carry on.
But I was just saying, is we need to see the plan and see exactly where you are laying things out. It's one thing to get us excited about original programming and verticals and whatnot, but we need to see the granularity in that.
Okay, Brad.
Everything that everyone else said, plus. There's some more accountability on some of the new metrics that are coming out. Owning up to them with viewable impressions, delivery and demo, and more ownership of that.
Okay. So let me, if I can do that again. We've got show me stuff I haven't seen before, wow me, make it real. Follow up that's substantive and tangible. Make my life easier, make it easier to deal with you and do so effectively. More meat on the bone in terms of strategy, scheduling, and stuff that you can take away and operationalize, and accountability that you're going to be able to leverage against any future investment you make. And presumably well-fed and well-watered throughout the whole thing. It's a given of anything that ends in front. Any questions before we wrap this up? Oh, one at the back there.
So we keep talking about measurement metrics, and I've heard you say that you want to see something you haven't seen before. No. Hi, my name is Tina Chadwick. I'm from Moxie Interactive. You had talked about showing something that you hadn't seen before, and then the overlay of the panel is about metrics of measurement. Talk to me a little bit about how you would convince a client to try something new that doesn't have a benchmark metric.
Good question.
I guess I'll take it, and we should probably all give an answer to that. So for my client specifically, which is Dell, testing has always been something that has been sort of ingrained in their DNA, but when times get tough, it's also the first thing that always gets removed from the budget. So what we've actually set forth in, let's say, this year, is we've actually set aside a separate testing and innovation budget, and we've also organized ourselves to have a separate testing and innovation team that aligns with Dell very nicely. So that team is actually redefining what the KPIs are, and they're not held to the same KPIs that the business as usual is running on a day-to-day basis. So by doing so, we actually do rigorous testing and learn plans across various different media channels, and we map those out for the entire year. So we have specific clients that are in charge of these campaigns outside of the run the business. The budgets can't be cut and the roadmap set for the entire year. So it's a way of protecting the future, but also maintaining the realities of the business.
I'd say I'm fortunate as well that I have some clients that do have allocate certain funds for testing budgets. And I think it's important that a company have this culture of innovation and want to test some things that aren't proven. If they don't, that's not a company that I sort of rosy on their long-term outlook. I think it's okay if you don't have like a numerical benchmark that you're trying to reach with a given buy, but you should think about certain questions like why are you doing this? What are some things we might learn from it? What do we hope to accomplish? As long as you have that conversation, have some answers there that are answers you feel lead to a worthwhile test, then it's worth moving forward, I think.
Anyone else?
I would just say, yeah, benchmarks are so important. Actually, that's where the media partners are so valuable. while it may be a new product for this client, or it may be the first time into digital video, or even digital at all in some cases, there's usually someone else out there that's tried it. And you can get some reasonable benchmarks from the media partners. And that's one of the ways we rely heavily on you. Test budgets are great, but that doesn't take you off the hook for a benchmark. Yeah. You should still have a benchmark so you have some reasonable expectation. Was this test successful or was it not successful?
A lot of you are showing optimism for the web originals. I'm curious, after covering web originals going way back to the 1990s, I'm curious what you're seeing now about distribution, sustainability of audiences, and getting traction with audiences now that you weren't seeing then, that give you more faith in the idea that web originals really can do more than grab people for a couple of episodes and then fall off the cliff.
Well, I think you're seeing more and more web originals, and I think in the last year or two or so, you're also seeing some of the web originals being developed into long-form programming on network television. So that creates essentially in one way an incubator, and also in one way another forum to reach viewers, right? And I think the success of it also depends on how it's being promoted. I think a lot of the web originals have a lot of the conglomerates backing, and they were able to use the muscle of the network promotions to drive viewers there and create a 360 effect around it. And that's definitely one component. We're hearing more of them, but I think more importantly, we're hearing the long-form web originals. So TV-like experience that's being applied online, and definitely excited to see more about that as we talk about how the NewFront could be a niche closer, to the Upfront, and having that must-buy, I have to be there, buzz-building effect around it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting set of questions. And you mentioned promotion with regard to that. I mean, just how much promotion for web originals do we actually see other than in their immediate environment? When you think about the effort that goes into promoting TV programs. I mean, I did a consulting project just recently for one of the major networks, and it wasn't a huge project. But what they paid me was more than what gets spent on most web originals in terms of promotion, which is pitiful, sadly, because I'd love to have been paid a lot more. But I think that's a very major issue. And then I think you've got another factor, just briefly, it's potentially a huge discussion, there's a user experience. I may get it via a non-traditional means. It could be streamed to a TV set, but on what screen am I going to watch it in, and when and where? When do I want to sit back and watch something of a particular length and a particular type of content? Those are all big questions about consumers and how they engage with content that go way beyond let's make something and bang it up on the web and expect people to watch it on a computer.
Well, they also, the devices also give an opportunity for people to now get that damn stuff off the desktop, which was like the least comfortable place to watch.
Well, they do.
A video show, and now put it either on a smart TV, on a set of devices, and fill niches in their own lives that the desktop